Live from Bloomberg's world headquarters in New York, I'm Tim Stenevec. Welcome to Bloomberg Crypto, a look at the people, transactions, and technology shaping the world of decentralized finance. Well, as crypto grows, so does the Trump family connections to crypto. Donald Trump Jr. becomes an advisor to Polymarket as the company DJT makes plans to create a crypto treasury. And in just a moment, we're going to speak to one of the most prominent executives tied to crypto treasuries. Jack Mallers is back with us from 21 Capital. And as digital assets become more mainstream, a bit of disarray at the CFTC as yet another commissioner departs. All that and more coming up next over this next half hour on Bloomberg Crypto. First up, though, a snapshot of the market, in particular Bitcoin, just since our last show 9 days ago. We got to start with the risk-on rally that we saw last Friday. That was, of course, following Fed Chair Jay Powell's comments at Jackson Hole. Kind of seems like a lifetime ago at this point, but there was a lot of exuberance when it came to the crypto markets. You can see right there on the 22nd, the move higher for Bitcoin. Then over the weekend, something really interesting happened. CoinDesk reported on Sunday that a so-called Bitcoin whale sold quite a bit of Bitcoin, 24,000 of them. You can see that right here. The so-called flash crash, at least according to CoinDesk. You can see the effect on price here. Since then, we've actually seen relatively steady move lower for Bitcoin over the last 9 days, down about 3.8%. Now, as we've been covering, public companies are quickly becoming big crypto holders, as some have rushed this year to hold digital assets on their balance sheet, in some cases turning themselves into digital asset treasury firms. This trend, along with ETFs, has helped create this pie chart that you see right here. When it comes to public companies, they're the biggest holders, followed by private companies, ETFs, and then you got governments down here at the bottom with the smallest share. But look at this, 172 different public companies are actually holding Bitcoin right now. Well, institutional investors buying crypto is growing. It might mean valuations are stretched. Kraken co-CEO Arjun Sethi spoke with me all about that just last week.
My personal belief is that a lot of these companies in the crypto ecosystems are option valued. So they're overvalued in my perspective. And in some cases that is a good thing and a bad thing, which is you're getting more attention. And so you know more about what's happening in the industry. But I think it's really important to just take a look at, how are these companies growing efficiently? Where do they make their money? Where do they not? And where do the losses accrue? So I don't have any specific perspective on which one is overvalued. I just think the world of crypto has become more overvalued with the DATs and the companies that have been going public.
Well, the crypto treasury play has created such positive results for some publicly traded companies that even some struggling companies that are completely outside of crypto are looking to get in on the action. You've got biotech companies like MEI Pharma, Sonnet Biotherapeutics, and 180 Life Sciences, now known as ETHZilla. They've announced pivots to crypto buying. You can see all three of these stocks popped when they made those announcements. I want to bring in Bloomberg's Monique Malima, who wrote about this. She joins us from Toronto. She's been following the story closely. Monique, I was pretty surprised to see this because I understand the idea of, maybe a company that's been crypto adjacent or a mining company becoming a Bitcoin or some sort of other crypto treasury firm. But companies completely outside of the space have been doing this. What did you find?
Yes, like you mentioned, there's been a growth in the amount of digital asset treasury companies. In the biotech space, there's been high interest rates, a lack of funding, and other factors that have been weighing down the industry. And as a result, for some of these companies that haven't had that same success in drug development, they're looking for other ways to improve their share prices, and some of them have turned to crypto. We've seen at least 10 different biotech companies just this year announce that they're going to now start buying and holding crypto. And like you mentioned, right after they make those announcements, then their stocks go right up. Okay, so it works out in the beginning. How has it held up? And I guess a better question might be, is it a permanent pivot away from pharma, or are they just using it as an opportunity to raise money to make investments in biotech? I mean, biotech is a notoriously volatile, big bet industry, kind of like crypto. Yeah, exactly. Like you mentioned, there's been a lot of volatility. For some of these companies, they're looking to still continue their biotech. The chair of ETHZilla told us that, well, they're going to continue with their drug development. They do see the Ethereum holding part of their business becoming a bigger part of the company going forward. And other companies are just making complete shifts over. We've seen Riot. They were one of the first biotechs to make this move back in 2017, and their shares went way up when they made these announcements as well. They peaked in 2021. And they're still up about 60% from before they used to do crypto, and now that's all they do. But their shares have come down about 80% from the original peak from their crypto holdings. So a lot of ups and downs for these companies, and some, when they see it's going well with crypto, decide to stay in that space, and others are just trying to use it as a way to raise more funds to be able to continue their biotech business.
Well, speaking of the space, I want to move away from biotech to another story that you have been covering, and that's the Trump media partnering with Crypto.com on, yes, another crypto treasury. They've agreed to do this with a blank check vehicle to deal with Crypto.com to hold CRO tokens, TMTG. What is this?
So like you mentioned, they're going to be holding CRO tokens. That is the native token of the Kronos blockchain. This isn't a very big cryptocurrency. At the time of the announcement, it's about the 23rd biggest across the kind of crypto sphere. But they're going to be holding about 19% of the entire stockpile of Kronos tokens. This is going to be a public company that, like you mentioned, is going to be in partnership with Crypto.com. It's going to be with Yorkville Acquisition Corp. And Crypto.com also has some previous involvement with the Kronos ecosystem as well. So this is going to be a new foray in terms of crypto treasury companies, because they'll also be the largest holder of Kronos in the world and the first Kronos crypto treasury company.
MCGA is set to be the ticker. What do we think? Make Kronos great again? Make crypto great again? How do you read into it?
My guess would probably be Kronos,
okay,
but it could really go either way. You know, Trump media has really gone kind of all in on crypto. We've seen they're offering crypto-linked ETFs. That's also going to be with Crypto.com. And Trump media's Truth Social is also going to have Kronos token rewards available as well.
Monique Malima joining us from Toronto. Check out all of her reporting on the Bloomberg terminal and at Bloomberg.com. Thanks, Monique. Appreciate it. Hey, let's go more into crypto treasuries. I want to bring in Jack Mahler, CEO of 21 Capital. It's a crypto treasury company set to launch with more than 43,000 Bitcoin and go public sometime this year. That's where I want to start. When's this happening? What's an updated timeline?
I'm on public file with a press release saying that we had filed our S4 some time ago. We are enjoying the communications with the SEC. We're hopeful of Q3. Obviously, could spill over into Q4, but we think soon. How about that? You take that
Q3
answer?
this year could spill into Q4 this year.
Yeah, and if we're doing the math, we're almost done with Q3.
Yeah, we are.
So yeah, there we go. We're putting it together. So I think we're excited, but ultimately it's about our relationship with the SEC and their ability to get comfortable with the transaction. And we feel confident, but a lot of that's not in our control. So we're working with them diligently, and we're excited.
When you're working with them, what are you finding as the holdup right now?
It's just a complicated and big transaction. I mean, we have over 43,000 Bitcoin sitting in escrow. We're doing it with Cantor Equity Partners, so there's some big names, there's a lot of capital, and everyone, I mean, listen, our job in with the SEC is making sure that investors in the capital markets know what they need to know about the business and everything is disclosed. So we don't plan on ever taking shortcuts. We want to do everything the right way, and that's really much it. But we're happy with the speed so far.
What have you been doing in the meantime while this crypto has been in escrow, while these Bitcoins have been in escrow? Have you started to lend, or do you have customers right now?
Nothing I can disclose on this show. I'll be back whenever I can. I'll tell you all about it. No, we've raised a ton of money. We've brought on SoftBank as a minority but significant partner who will join us on the board. So we have sovereign-esque capital. We have the largest crypto business in the world, cash flow, stablecoins, and Tether. We've built a tremendous leadership team. And as I've talked about on the show, we do plan to launch a business. What I would say to you, Tim, is I don't know if we consider ourselves a Bitcoin treasury company.
Why not?
We have a Bitcoin treasury business.
Okay.
We go out, we've already raised a convertible bond, very accretive terms to our shareholders. We've been able to acquire Bitcoin in a phenomenal way. So that's our Bitcoin treasury business. We're going to raise capital, buy Bitcoin accretively. We also are going to build products. We plan to have cash flow. And so as a Bitcoin treasury company, our sole purpose is not solely to accretively raise capital to acquire Bitcoin. It's also to contribute to Bitcoin's story through technology, through products, have customers, have cash flow. And we think that makes us materially different than a lot of the other, maybe dozens of businesses. Who knows their plans, but I want to be concretely clear that we see ourselves, again, are we competing with a Coinbase? Are we competing with a strategy? We think, why not both? We're capable of both of those. And so I don't know if I agree with the categorical marketing term of treasury company for 21.
What would you call yourself then?
A Bitcoin company. We want to be the best Bitcoin company in the world.
And what does that actually involve? Because if we look at the landscape right now, we can see companies like Coinbase, for example, that are really focused on being a marketplace, being an exchange. And then you have the strategies that are focused on the treasury side of this. For you, where do you see the biggest area for growth?
Oh, you put it right on a tee for me. I'm going to hit it out of the park. That's exactly the market hole we want to fill. Is that
What's the hole, though? Those companies are there.
Yeah, but the hole is there's a lot of exchanges that aren't focused solely on Bitcoin financial services. We think they're missing the forest for the trees. Bitcoin's a $500 trillion asset in the making. These other technologies and crypto coins are maybe going to replace an Amazon. And so we think the focus on Bitcoin financial services and not getting diluted our focus through all these other speculative vehicles. And then for Strategy is the founder of this Bitcoin treasury idea, which is an incredible business, and Michael Saylor's been able to prove that. But they have yet to explore the idea of bolting on an operating company on top of that and using capital markets in their balance sheet to monetize this Bitcoin trend. We think we can live in the intersection of those with my experience at Strike, Tether's experience running stablecoins and USDT, SoftBank, our access to capital there. We think we can do both and blend those worlds into what will be a very unique Bitcoin vehicle in the capital markets.
How do you know this is a problem that needs to be solved? What evidence do you have that this is a hole that needs to be filled?
Because my partners and co-founders made about $5 billion of net profit in Q2. That is Tether. And they hold Bitcoin on the balance sheet. They support a lot of Bitcoin adjacent businesses like mining, like lending, like brokerage services. And I myself at Strike, we just had our largest quarter ever. We're one of the biggest financial services firms in the world when it comes to Bitcoin. So I don't know of two better experts to lead the Bitcoin train in the capital markets than us. So the experience comes with our resume.
What's your outlook on the treasury part of this specifically? Because as we've been covering closely on this program, this is an area that has just exploded over the last couple of quarters. I mean, you have biotech companies going and becoming crypto treasury companies right now. Mike Novogratz has said the idea here might start to fade a little bit. Do you agree with that?
Well, I'll give you an opinion on both sides. One side, you've got the fixed income market that's been 40 years running only up, that's now turning down. That market's rolling over. The 60-40 portfolio, as we know it, might be dead. Bonds are 5 straight years of red, of losses. And so you need to find ways to capitalize yourself. If it isn't dollars, if it isn't treasuries, if it isn't an index of stocks, Bitcoin and assets like gold are maturing as a neutral reserve asset that you can capitalize yourself on. So I think more and more companies, governments, sovereigns, endowments, individuals will begin to capitalize on Bitcoin. Now, to take the other side of, is this market frothy? I think it is, right? What we've learned is creating a Bitcoin treasury company is not a scarcity within itself. Anybody can register a business, attempt to go public, and try and raise money to buy Bitcoin. What we believe at 21, again, is the success is going to lie within the ability to attract massive swaths of capital and actually build a business on top of this opportunity that generates cash flow and has customers and is contributing real world market value to the end consumer. That's at least our opinion, and we think that's a far more scarcity than your 20th treasury company.
Last time you were on our program, you gave this idea, and it kind of went viral on X after we spoke, but it was this idea of existing and being paid to exist through cryptocurrency. The idea that you sitting there at work all day long, you're not necessarily being compensated for what you're doing, and you see crypto as being a solution to that. I got to be honest with you, I didn't quite get it.
Okay.
I want you to paint that picture for me and get me on board.
Yeah, well, so first of all, I think it's Bitcoin, not crypto. You know that. But just to clarify for the audience, it's Bitcoin specific.
Well, that's just your view that the Bitcoin is the crypto that you're focused on.
Yeah, but I think Bitcoin is the money within the crypto sphere.
Okay.
And the point really here is this, Tim. Every single day, you make a decision on how to get compensated for your time, your energy, your effort, your labor. I'm watching you. I'm sitting in the behind the scenes. I'm watching you haul your butt. You're doing a great job on this show. You need to somehow capture the value you're creating for all of us here. And you need to somehow save that value so that tomorrow you can pay rent. You can get groceries. You can travel home and see your parents.
But that comes every 2 weeks in the form of a paycheck to me.
Right, but what the
Bloomberg sees the value in that. They hired me.
Correct. So you're going to get a paycheck in the form of dollars, but those dollars are losing value in the things that you need in your life, anywhere between 2 and 20%. Depends on what you want. You want a Caesar salad, 2%. You want a nice house, 20%. And so you need to find a way to persist and save and store that wealth. And you make a decision every single day, whether you know it or not. Unfortunately, because the dollar is being debased, everyone is a speculator here filming and watching us. And so you have to make that decision. And in my opinion, over the last 15 years, and it will continue to be so, Bitcoin is the best place to do that. Take the wealth you're creating today, bring it with you tomorrow.
Jack, always love it when you join the show. We always have a good conversation.
You're the man. Thanks.
Jack Mahler's CEO and a co-founder of 21 Capital. Coming up, as more companies pile into crypto, we will hear from one company that offers various services tied to blockchain, treasuries, and public markets. We've got OpenWorld's founder joining us next. And data analysis by Bloomberg Intelligence shows the top holders of Bitcoin ETFs, and they are notable Wall Street names, the top 4 being Millennium, Jane Street, Brevan Howard, and even Goldman Sachs. This is Bloomberg. We're speaking a lot today, and as we have been in recent weeks, about digital asset treasury companies. It's not just biotechs and Trump media. Bloomberg reporting this week that Galaxy Digital, Multicoin Capital, and Jump Crypto are all in talks with potential backers about raising roughly $1 billion to accumulate Solana. That would make it the largest treasury dedicated to that token. For more on this, let's bring in Stephan Dalal. He's co-founder and chief legal officer at OpenWorld. It helps launch crypto projects. Talk to me about the space that you guys occupy at OpenWorld and helping to launch these crypto projects, because you must be really busy right now.
We are incredibly busy, Tim, and thanks so much for having me on. So OpenWorld is a fully integrated advisor. We work with venture-backed token projects, help them get through the token launch process across a variety of domains. So yeah, we're having a lot of conversations with projects that really want to understand how to actually put together these digital asset treasuries.
What are the tokens that are being launched right now? Because it just seems like it's unlike it was back in like 2019. These are not ICOs. We're seeing like digital asset treasury companies more so.
That's right. I mean, I think what we're seeing with the digital asset treasury, I always like to ask myself, why are we seeing this happen now? Like, what's so special about this moment? I think 2 really interesting things. One, what used to be 2 very separate worlds, blockchain, digital assets, and public capital markets, we're starting to see a bridge that's being built between those 2 worlds. And what we're finding is there's broad demand from investors who want access to digital assets. They just don't want to go on chain to actually go and get them. And so what they really can do now is they can access those digital assets directly through a much more familiar and comfortable vehicle. And that's why we're seeing a lot of digital asset treasuries. The other really interesting thing about DATS that I don't think gets enough airtime is we're actually seeing the creation of much more efficient capital structuring. So token projects usually have to go to private capital markets to go and fundraise. Those have very, very specific deal cycles. So when the door is closed, the door is closed. If you can now, as a token project, go and access public money through public capital markets, you actually, in a lot of ways, end up de-risking that project.
It's worked well over the last few months, and really over the last year, as we've seen these asset prices move higher. What happens when the prices stop going up?
Well, I mean, I think you're always going to have some variability, especially in any sort of new technology. You see Bitcoin is down a little bit, but Ethereum is very close to its all-time high, just hit its all-time high about a week ago. So I think, that's...
It took years to get back to those highs that it hit years ago.
Well, I mean, I think the market's been a little bit slow to realize the potential in Ethereum. Like, it has an incredible programmability layer. I think there's been a lot of attention on Bitcoin, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, Bitcoin is an incredibly innovative technology, but Bitcoin doesn't really have utility, right? I mean, in fact, the sort of irony about Bitcoin is its utility comes from the fact that it doesn't really have any utility. You can't really do anything with it except store it. And that's good for what it does, but there's no programmability with Bitcoin. People are really starting to realize that there's tons of programmability and potential for innovation in Ethereum and in other layer ones. And I think that's what we're seeing, a market response to that in Ethereum's price.
Stephan, you got to come back. We're out of time, but we got to get you back on the program. Stephan Dalal, co-founder and chief legal officer at OpenWorld. Coming up next, as Washington rewrites the rules of crypto, one more commissioner leaving the CFTC, potentially putting more pressure on the regulator to manage digital assets. We're going to discuss the disarray right after this. This is Bloomberg.
this is becoming mainstream, right? Digital assets are going to become mainstream. Now, that doesn't mean all of them. I think there's going to be some that, like in anything, you have to be sort of careful and really understand the space. But again, this underlying technology is so powerful.
That was Franklin Templeton CEO Jenny Johnson speaking to Bloomberg at the Wyoming Blockchain Symposium. That was just last week. And as crypto goes more mainstream, U.S. regulators are being tasked to do more with digital assets. And now we're learning that CFTC Commissioner Kristen Johnson is leaving the regulator next week. Johnson is one of 4 commissioners who have either said they're leaving or have left the agency since the beginning of the year, bringing the agency under the sole leadership of Acting Chair Caroline Pham. Kristen Johnson said in her farewell press release, quote, "In a moment when such significant changes to markets and market structure are contemplated, I'm concerned that the expert staff at the Commission receive the support and investments needed to be successful." We've got with us Bloomberg's SEC and CFTC reporter Lydia Bayoud. She covered the story. She recently took a deep dive for Bloomberg Business Week. It was a big take last week for the CFTC and into the CFTC. Lydia, good to see you. This came out before the most recent news yesterday. What's happening at the CFTC?
So you're right. They're right now a commission of 2, soon to be 1 this time next week. And that's going to put even more pressure on the agency in terms of what it can get through while it's waiting for a permanent chairman. That's another source of uncertainty for this agency that, as you said, is poised to get potentially a lot more authority from Congress to regulate crypto. Brian Quintenz is President Trump's nominee to lead the agency permanently, but his nomination is also up in the air after a vote was paused twice in committee right before August. And everyone's waiting to see whether or not the White House tells the Senate to go ahead and move him forward, or if they decide to go with someone new.
So it's not just the idea of cryptocurrency, but it's also as cryptocurrency becomes more mainstream. Just 20 seconds. How much bigger of a role could the CFTC take in crypto?
Significantly. Congress is debating whether to make them the primary regulator of digital asset exchanges, traders, kind of everything within this ecosystem. The SEC would still have a much more limited role, but this could be the biggest expansion for the agency since Dodd-Frank.
Yeah, all this coming at a time where the agency, as you mentioned, could see a huge expansion. Big thank you to Bloomberg's SEC and CFTC reporter Lydia Bayoud. Check out her story and more on the Bloomberg terminal. It was among the most read and a big take. That is going to do it for Bloomberg Crypto. Join us again, though, next week. We're back on Tuesday. This is Bloomberg.